So, it's time for a big, scary lesson, and I kind of been weighing up whether this is something to cover in a more beginners type tutorial, but I think having an understanding of how to do this will really push on your modelling. So, I was keen to cover it, and what we're going to look at is how we can prepare our models for texture mapping using a technique called UV unwrapping. And believe me, a lot of 3D artists hate doing this and they shy away from it, but the more you do it, the kind of more it feels like a game and solving a puzzle. It's actually something that I really enjoy doing now. So we're going to go through it, I'm going to explain exactly what it is, and we'll take our time and we'll get this model unwrapped, and then we can move on to doing some really cool detailed texture work. If you haven't done the first lesson, you can find a link to it in the description, but also if you don't fancy doing that for whatever reason, no judgment, you can download the model from my Patreon, which is also linked. Okay, let's get into it. So this is where we got to in the last session. We've got this nice detailed looking model. But before we go too far, there's a couple of things that I want to do to make things a bit easier for us as we're working. So if we go to File and then choose External Data, you want to make sure this automatically pack resources is checked. I think by default it's off. And what that means is that any images you make within Blender, it will automatically save in the file. I'm sure it's got its reasons for not doing that by default, but Blender doing Blender things. So we're going to make sure that's turned on. And then we're going to go over here to our materials. We're going to select any object, but let's select the main arcade unit. And we should probably name some of these at some point. So let's just name this part arcade cabinets main. We'll rename other bits as we go. Bad practice on my part. I'm going to click on the material and make a new material. And then where it says base color, we're going to click the little circles to the side of it, and we're going to choose image texture. And then you can see it's applied a black image to it. And we're going to choose new. And then here where it says blank, we're going to change this to color grid. And we're going to type in 4096, 4096 and name this UV grid. Okay, so check that all of the settings look like that. And then hit new image. And what's happened here? Well, it kind of looks crazy. We've got this layout of squares, but everything's kind of smushed up and it's really hard to understand what's going on. So I'm going to explain that. I'm going to take it in stages so that you can see what's going on. So we're just going to name this UV grid material. And we're going to select this object, our display screen, go into solo mode with the backspace key. I'm just going to turn on my screen keys because as usual, I've forgotten. Okay, so we've gone into solo mode, and then we're going to apply our UV grid material. And if we go up to our top menu, we haven't done this yet, Blender comes with a bunch of preset screen layouts, and we want to use this one here called UV editing. And it will split our screen into two. And again, this is going to look very confusing to start with, but it'll start to make sense. And we've gone into a different preview version of this. So we're just going to set this up the same way. So have our shading on. Hit the backspace key, and for some reason my screen key is still not working. It's this on. Okay. Let's turn it on and off so then it needs a little... Oh, I think it's hidden off the side of the screen. Let's bring it in like that. Okay. Might need to move that back, never mind. Okay, so what we have on the left is the UV space, and I only learned this the other day. It's called UV because we already use X, Y, and Z for our 3D space. So we use U, V, and W for our 2D texture space. And you don't need to know that, but you know, when I refer to UV mapping, that's what we're talking about. So it's the idea of taking a 3D object and applying a 2D image to it. And the way that I think about this, when I was a kid, I had a train set, and I used to get these model card kits to build the buildings, and they would be flat sheets of card, and you cut them out, and you'd fold parts and glue them together, and it would build a 3D shape. So we're doing the reverse of that. We're taking a 3D object, and we want to apply a 2D texture to it. So we have to dismantle it. We have to tell Blender how we're going to do that. So we hit Tab to go into edit mode. And what we're going to do is we're going to select these edges. Okay, so just those ones using the Shift key, and then right click and choose Mark Seam. And then the other thing I want to do before we go any further is apply this mirror. Okay, so you can now see it's applied and it's put our marked edges. Okay, and nothing else will have happened yet. Then we're going to go to face mode and hit A to select everything. And then here on the UV menu, we're going to choose Unwrap. And then suddenly, our image looks a lot better, a lot more like it should do. And that is because we put cuts in now, so Blender knows how to dismantle this. And if I just can I turn this off for a second? Yeah, just turn this off. You can see that's the shape it's made. And in fact, we're going to select all of these and then rotate 90, the same as we would do normally. And you can see now that we have our rows of numbers and they go up in order, everything's facing the right way. And we've got a little bit of stretching at the back. So the way I'm going to fix that is I'm just going to put a loop cut in here and just pull that to the back, and that should help some of our stretching. And otherwise, I think we're pretty good. So that is our first object unwrapped. Good news is that was nice simple. Bad news is that was by far the easiest object we've got. So we're going to go out of solo mode and we'll make sure this is named before we go any further. Lightbox, yep, I've already named that. Okay, so let's do the same thing with, which panel should we pick next? Let's do it with this one because it's a similar shape. So we're going to solo that and let's apply our material so we can see the problem again. And you can see Blender's kind of had a go, but it doesn't know what to do at the sides because it can't. In fact, if we select everything with our face and unwrap, you'll see that all it can kind of do is smush the whole thing down. So it looks all right from the front, but then we've got crazy stretching going on. You don't want any kind of stretching. So let's go into this view for now, and we're going to turn off our subdivision surface. And we want to go through and pick out all of the points that we can break it into smaller sections. Now, you could literally select every one. You could have this panel here. It's just, you don't need to copy this. I'm just showing you. You could take that and make that one section. You could take that. And in fact, if you select everything and go Smart UV Project, Blender will do a pretty good job. So you could, if we go back to our shader mode, but it can get a bit confusing because none of these are joined up. Everything's loose, and maybe that's fine for what you're working on, but I prefer to have everything kind of connected. And also, I think it's a good idea to kind of know what you've done and why you've done it, rather than just using the auto mode. So let's go back to the shader mode, and I want to pick up these edges again. So we're just going to right click and mark seam. There is a faster way to do this as ever, and I'll show you that next, but let's do it the good old-fashioned way to start with. So we're going to mark this seam. And then, so this section, this flat part will now fold out. So that's great. But it won't be able to deal with this. So we're going to pick up this edge here and then alt-click on that edge that goes all the way around. And we're going to mark that seam. Right. Okay, so this will now unwrap. Now, there's no way that it can really unwrap these two. So we're going to select this edge, alt-click, so make sure we've got the outer edge because we've got our edge loops in there. So mark that seam. And do the same thing here. And then you probably guessed that we're going to do this one. I think that's the, let's have a look. Doesn't really matter. Let's do it on this one. Yeah. Okay. And then the only thing that's left to do is this doesn't know how to unwrap because it's, if you think about it, it's a ring at the moment. And again, your only option would be to flatten the whole thing, which we don't want. So I'm going to put a cut in here and a cut in here. And we actually need to make sure, so we're going to undo that because we want to put the cuts in all of that and just check you've got the other side. So it's just a case going slowly and methodically for now. Okay, and then we'll go into face mode, hit A, select everything, And you can see now we've got a much neater unwrap. And something I like to do here, if we just go to the margin, and if we just set this to 0.2, it'll just put a little bit of space. Maybe we'll make it 0.4, so we can just see the gaps a little bit more. So you can see that if you were building this kit, that would already be more appealing because you've got less parts to deal with. And let's select our UV grid. And what we can do to kind of help this make a little bit more sense to us is if we select everything and then come over to here and hit the L key, we could put this inside here, just scale it down a little bit. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these. I'm just going to move them off the grid and scale it down. And don't need to worry too much about what we're doing here at the moment. I'll explain it later, but we've got another part done. So now we can go back into our main view and we'll check this has got a name. Speaker panel, yeah. So you'll be able to see which parts we've done because they will have the grid looking right, and the parts that aren't done will have the stretching going on. So let's tackle the big arcade cabinet. And before we do that, there's actually something else I want to do as well. So these parts here are going to be a light strip and they're not actually part of the main arcade cabinet. So we're also going to delete these faces at the bottom because we're never going to see them, and that makes our UV unwrapping a lot easier. So we're just going to go through and select anything. So we can either do it this way. I'll show you this technique first. We'll just go through and keep dragging it. And just push the shift key again and select more faces. Make sure you've not got any others selected. And then hit X. And that's gone. Maybe I'll show you the other technique. No, let's do it now. Okay, so we'll undo that. So the other way you could do it is flip into the side view, go into X-ray mode, and then just drag. Make sure you're not selecting these little dots. So I need to zoom in a little bit more because each of those dots represents a face. So when we can get all of these in one go. Turns out my machine's not completely straight. And there we go. Let's just check we're not missing any faces. So we'll turn off X-ray mode. That's looking good. Great. And then we'll hit X to delete it. So either way. And then next thing we're going to do is we're going to push 2 to go to edge mode. Select this edge. And then we're going to select loops. I'm going to choose edge ring. And that should work its way all the way around the model. And then if we hit the... Now, I don't know why you have to do it in this order, but if you hit the vertex mode, it will then select everything in face, and then you can go into face mode. So you have to do it in that order. And then select more. And I've got my shortkey map, so if you haven't, it selects more again until we're just picking up. Let's just turn off our subdivision so we can see, yeah, that's the right edge. And then we're going to, let's just turn it back on again for now and hit key to separate the selection. So we're doing that without duplicating it. And then we'll just quickly name this light strip. And then if we turn that off, that's great, but we've now made a gap in our model. So again, that's a nice easy way to fix this. Go into push 2 to go to edge mode, and then we're going to alt click on here, and then hold down the shift key and alt click on here. And then right click, choose loop tools and bridge. So I'm just dropping a little bit in here because I couldn't remember if loop tools was enabled by default. It turned out it isn't. So if you haven't got loop tools, you won't see anything in this spot here. So to enable it, it's got a little bit different in modern versions of Blender. Hopefully you're up to date with a new version. So you need to look in Get Extensions and search for loop tools, and then just hit install there, and it'll take a couple of seconds. And then if we go to add-ons and just check that it's turned on there, it should have a tick next to it. And then when you right click, you'll see the loop tool menu and you'll get the bridge command. So that's all you need. Okay, great. Well, I've done it on the other side. So we're going to unwrap this now. So it's the same approach, and there's a little trick that we can use to speed things up a little bit. Let's turn off our subdivision, go to edge mode, And then I'm just going to move my window a little bit so I've got more space. I'm going to go select sharp edges. And it's going to work out where we have an angle of more than 30 degrees. And that's normally quite a good place to put in our cuts. So with these selected, we can right click and choose Mark Seam. And then do the same step. So select all, UV unwrap. And it's not a bad start. There's a lot of parts going on there. So now we're going to just work through and work out what we can simplify. We can see now it's sorted out stretching, and it's like we've gift wrapped our arcade machine, which is far better wrapping than I can ever do. But we don't need to separate. This part could fold over, and this part could fold over. You see what I mean when I unwrap it here. So we're going to use Control-Shift to select all the way. We're going to make sure we're in edge mode first. So we're going to select this edge, and then we're going to move it up to the top. Zoom out a bit. And we're going to hit Control-Shift. And we're going to choose Clear Seam. I'm going to do the same thing here. And we want to stay in mirror mode for now because it's going to apply all of our changes to both sides and save us the work. So Clear Seam. So then we're going to hit 3 to go into face mode, A to select all, and then hit UV to unwrap. And you can see now that this is still unwrapped, but this part now flows around. And you can see this because the grid continues, and let's continue around. So that's looking good. So we could actually do, if we wanted to, we could also continue this part. Let's see how this looks. So let's remove this seam and make sure you've got these little edges as well. Clear seam. So now you can see that this is flying around to the front as well. And we could potentially do the same with this, but I think we'll leave it for now. Maybe this could join onto this part. So we can remove this seam. Make sure you got that edge as well. If it ever unwraps strangely, it's often that you've missed an edge. Okay, so let's just go through and just monitor my progress as I go. So you can see now this is joined onto this one. And this part here should be nice and easy to do because this is the reverse of what we've done before. So we don't need this to be a seam. I'm going to clear seam. Great. And you probably already decided at this point if you like this process or if you think this is the most annoying thing you've ever done. But yeah, get used to it because this is kind of the best way to work in 3D. I think we can have. So I was going to unwrap this and we could remove the seam, and we could do so it would connect to the front here. But then when we mirror it, we're going to lose that usefulness. So I think we'll leave that as is. This seems like a good time to apply our mirror modifier. So you know the steps for that now. And unwrap. And you can see now we've got this huge expanse, so this main part. And this is going to be really useful for later on when we're designing the details and the patterns to go on our arcade machines. This big flat area to paint on. And you can see that this pattern continues round. It is upside down, so we could fix that if we wanted to, or fix that at the end. So we're making some good progress now. So this part's unwrapped, this part's unwrapped. And let's look at this section here. So we go back into edit mode. So I think this should be one continuous shape. So we're going to Control-Shift, select all of that, and clear seam. And then same one here. Clear seam. And we'll just do the same thing again. So we'll first select everything, A for select all, and then UV unwrap. And now this panel flows all the way around. This section looks good. We can kind of leave it as it is, or we could actually just join this on. Maybe let's do that. So I just like to have as few shapes as possible to work with. It makes it far easier to texture later on. So I'm going to clear that seam. Make sure you got your face selected. Okay, we've got a much more manageable set of shapes now. So we're nearly done. That's the good news. The only bit I want to look at now is this section here. So this section has to cut away from the base, so that's fine. And then I think the best option would be to remove this set of edges. So we're just going to work our way around with Control and Shift and just selecting faces as we go, and Blender will work out the best path to get all the way around. So Shift and then Control. I always try to make sure I've got I've done something weird. That's what I've done weird. So if it does anything like that, just go back and make sure you're making smaller steps, because it's trying to use its brain to work out which parts to pick out and missed again. Okay, mark seam. Clear seam, sorry. And then let's see what happens if we unwrap this. So this should be the base panel here, kind of folded out. So we've ended up with 5 big pieces, which is perfect. So that's the area around the screen, that's the main cabinet, that's the base, this is the front, and then this is the inside of the screen. So what we can do is, it's a good idea to have everything kind of facing the right way. So if you click on one of these and then hit the L key, we can then rotate this 180 degrees, and now our grid is facing the right way up. We can see, if you ever lose it in this side, it's because it matches up, so make sure you've got everything selected here, and then you can click off, and then we can see that this part inside is at 90 degrees the wrong angle, so we're going to rotate, and then I think R minus 90. Nope, so it's R90. Oh, I picked up the wrong vertex there. So make sure you click off. Let's try that again. Click on here, linked, R90. There we go. It's facing the right way. And this is facing the right way. This is facing the right way on some sides. So you've got to decide which not that it really matters, but let's do this. So we're going to click on one of these vertex here, make sure nothing else is selected. L, which is all the linked. And let's see what happens if we rotate 90 degrees. There we go. So you can see that the front is just this part that needs flipping now. So click on here, linked, rotate, it should be 180, and there we go. So this is going to be upside down because it flows onto the front, but yeah, I think we're pretty good. And we can turn on our subdivision, check everything's looking all right. There's no major stretching. It's a little bit here, but you're not going to see it when text is applied, and it's much better than it was. Okay, so this is a good point to save, if you've gone quite a long time without saving. So I like to give each stage in my projects a different name, so I'm going to call this, just wait for my hard drive to catch up. So we're going to name this Arcade UV Unwrap. I'm just going to give that a number 1 so I can save incremental afterwards. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the big stuff. And some of these shapes are not going to be as difficult as they look like they're going to be. So that's the good news. Okay, this one is going to be a little bit boring to do, but let's get it out of the way. It's always a good idea to get the boring ones out of the way because the rest will go faster. So back in solo mode, and we'll turn off subdivision and select our UV. And we're going to use this idea of a big square with these kind of flaps coming off it for each one. So we could do this sharp edge thing again, but it might be quicker to just pick these by hand and see how we go. So I'll click that edge, and then let's just do this edge first. So mark seam, and then I'm going to Control Shift. In fact, ignore that. I'm going to undo that. We just want these edges. So we want these edges, mark seam. Control Shift to select all of these edges. I'm just going to work our way around the model. Okay, and it's this edge that we want because we want to pull this away from the box behind it. So that's the first one done. And then we're going to do the same thing here. So we're going to select this edge, mark seam, and then we're going to just select up through here. So you should now be starting to see these shapes as having a pattern. That there was a quick, whoops, just accidentally snapped right in. Here's a quick set of solutions to each shape. And the more you do this, the more you'll just start to see them in terms of shapes. So we need to do the reverse here. So we want to select all of these edges and okay. And mark that seam. And then we'll do, it's a scan reverse. So it's a little bit fiddly to see in, but we want to cut this edge, this edge, this edge, and this edge. So we're nearly there. I don't know why I selected the face. I'm going to keep going at the moment. So we've just got this panel at the back. So this needs to be pulled away from here. And then nice and easy, we've only got one edge here. So we can actually just select each of these in turn, go around. Mark seam. And then we need to select this edge. And that's the best way of doing this. I think we just want to mark that whole seam there. And then the good news is we're not going to worry about this face. We don't want any of these. So we're going to delete these. So go into face mode. And we'll just turn on our X-ray mode and rotate the camera like this. So looking at the side, and we should just be able to drag a box. Oh, that was not very well positioned. Let's try again. Should be able to drag a box like this. And we've got all of the back selected. We're just going to make sure we've got anything else selected. All good. And hit X to delete faces. Okay. And I'm just going to put a cut here. And a cut here. So I'm just going to break this ring. And that should be everything. Let's see what happens. So hit 3, and hit A, and then we're going to hit U and unwrap. And okay, so these are good. This has got some stretching going on, so we've obviously missed an edge somewhere. Because Blender's tried to work out how to flatten it and it can't. So that's just quite often what's happened there is that we'll have missed one edge and it's still like constrained. So it's just a case going around our model and working out if there's any missing edges. I can get a bit lost sometimes. So that's looking good. There's nothing obvious there. So this front panel, we know that this is okay. So it's actually one of the ones further back we've missed. And we can check kind of easily which one we're dealing with by if we hit L and then move it. So it's this one here is looking odd. So why is it looking odd? It's because we have completely missed a seam here. So mark seam. You might have already caught this, in which case we have to do that. So let's see how we're looking at. There, now you can see that's not stretched. So that's a good job. Let's do the same technique. Click on one of these vertex and hit L. And then we'll move it slightly. So we've got the same problem behind. We've done the same thing somehow. We have missed this edge completely. So Control Shift, mark seam. Let's just check we've got all the others. Good. I'm not sure how we've managed to miss doing all of these edges, but let's not worry about it. So, mark seam. So this will happen, you'll think you've got it right, and then you'll have just missed a whole section. But you do everything in little stages and keep refining it. And like I said, it's just like solving a puzzle. So we're nearly there, something's still not right. Okay. It's this top corner. So if we just select these vertex so we can see exactly which corner we're talking about. So it's down at the bottom here. You see, so we'd missed this little edge here. And now if we get all of this There you go. So it's highly likely you didn't make any of those mistakes, in which case, well done. It's also possible that you did, and it's really useful to know how to fix it. So if it's not unwrapping flat, if it's feeling pinched, then you've missed an edge somewhere, and it's just a case of going through and working out. So that was a lot of work, but it's now unwrapped, and if we apply our subdivision surface, and you can see it just starts to feel quite satisfying as everything looks right and is unwrapped properly. Okay, so I'm happy with all of that. Let's have a look at this piece, which looks scary, but it's actually really easy to unwrap. So I'm going to select that. And all we need to do is put a loop cut in each of these. So make sure you're in edge mode and not a loop cut. So all we need to do is select the edge loop of this. So hold and shift. And we're just going to work our way around all of these. If you make a mistake selecting any of them, you can just undo. But this might be easier if you turn off subdivision so you can see everything properly. So we're going to mark that seam. And then we want to pick up these edges. Okay, so that should all be good. And then we just need to do the same thing with the inside. So Alt Shift, select those, mark seam, Alt Shift. And again, we could do these multiple ones at once if you're feeling brave. So the more you get into this, you do get faster, and you'll be able to unwrap these models in no time. So that should be everything. So this is the interesting part now. Let's see if we've got it right. So back to face mode, you select everything and then unwrap. And there we go. The only thing that is not right is we haven't, these can't unwrap because they're linked. So we'll just go through and select these edges. So you just need to go through the top and the bottom of each one. And this one. And that one. So it took a little bit longer than I said, but we're nearly there. And this one. Last one. There we go. Okay, so they're all marked, and we'll just do the same thing. Select the face, unwrap, and there you go. You can see that we've got everything nice and flat. And now if we apply our material, and okay, so this is a good time to save again. So I'm just going to hit save incremental, so it gives me a new version. And the good news is we've done all the big parts. Now we've just got some fiddly little details, but these will actually be pretty quick to do, and we can reuse a lot of the same pieces. So let's shift select all these three. Go into solo mode, and let's look at this first shape. Now we've got very little to unwrap here, so all we should need to do is select these edges and mark seam, and then let's select the top and the bottom. Yep, they look right. Mark seam. And let's apply our UV grid. And select all, UV unwrap, see where we're at. Okay, things look okay. There's something... Oh, it's unwrapped everything, that's why. That's because I've tried to do too many things at once. So let's go back into this mode and let's just work on this part. There we go. So, UV unwrap. And I think we've got an extra edge that we don't know about in there because it's still connected up. So it's an easy way to fix that. I'm going to hit A, select everything in vertex mode, and then hit merge by distance. You can see it's snapped. So somehow I've made an extra edge in there. And let's put our loop cut back in. You might not need to do this because you might be better at Blender than I am. And we'll just do the same thing again. So I select all of these, unwrap. There we go. So we've got these neat edges now. So that's this one done. Yeah, we can put a loop cut in here just to make that transition better. There we go. Much better. Okay, so we'll go back into this edit mode. And then let's tackle this one. So what's going on here? We've got no ends to deal with, so we literally just need to put a seam down here. So we can select one end and then select the other end and mark seam. And let's apply our UV material. Go into face mode, hit A, select everything, and then unwrap, and it's done a pretty good job. And it's a stretch on the inside, but you're never going to see that. So let's not worry about that. And that is the trick. You have to think about which parts of the model people are going to see and which bits are worth worrying about. So last one. So there's nothing on the back, so that's good. So let's make this nice and easy. We're going to select these edges and mark seam. And then we need to, let's just turn on subdivision so we can see what we're dealing with. Select these edges. And then we want to make our usual like flattened box. So it's these edges we want to select. Just using the shift key and go around, selecting them. And mark the seam. We're going to select everything and hit unwrap. And that's looking pretty good. The only thing that we've got is this section here needs to be broken. Now we could make it one, but I'm going to make it two. I prefer to have two edges. So it's broken into two sections. Because it just makes it easier to unwrap later on. And there we go. So let's apply our trim material. And something weird's going to happen when we hit our subdivision. We're going to get some distortion here, and that's because of how I modelled it. We don't really have any sections here. Let's see if there's an easy fix. So let's select both of these. We hit I to inset, and it's not perfect, but it's made things better. And when you zoom out, you can't see. And again, like I said, it's worth remembering how small this detail actually is. Like, if you're looking at this whole machine like this, you're not going to be focusing on that. So it's about thinking about where your time is well spent. Okay, let's have a look at this. So this one is going to be very easy to do because we only need to worry about this front section, and we should probably remove the back faces. So we're going to position the camera like this and make sure we're in X-ray mode, and then drag. You might need to do this in a few stages, but let's see if we can get lucky. Nope. So let's try reposition the camera again. Yep, that's worked for me. Okay, so now we can hit X to delete, so we haven't got any back faces now. And then what we could actually do is if we apply our UV grid and then snap to the front view like this, select everything, and then choose UV, project from view. Blender is going to work out how the texture should sit looking perfectly from this camera, because we don't need to worry about the sides, and that's giving us this. So that's that unwrap now, and we're going to use the same technique to unwrap this. In fact, we might not even need to unwrap it at all, because you could just flatten the shape out. It might be worth putting in, I think this will work. Let's try it. So select UV grid, it's basically already unwrapped, and there we go. So what we've got left, we've got our joysticks, our joystick buttons and our screws, and the screws look like they're going to be annoying because there's lots of them, but we can reuse our work, and the same is going to apply on these. So let's pick up this shape, and first thing first, got nothing on the bottom. So we're going to use, for speed, we're going to select sharp edges. So go into edge mode, select sharp edges, and if we increase this amount, because we don't want it to select each one of these edges on the side, we'll just turn off X-ray mode. So set that to like 55 and see how that's looking. That should basically be everything we need. So mark seam, and then we need to run an edge from here to here. So Control and Shift to that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We don't want the edge to run along the inside because we want that to be one flat circle. Mark seam. And we'll just turn off our subdivision so we can see what's going on in here. And we're just going to select the same edges here. So we've got that edge there. We're ignoring these. We're going to select these ones. Okay, go to face mode, select everything, and unwrap. We've got a lot of parts, but it's a very small shape. So there's some of our UVs kind of stretching. Turn on our subdivision again. I think we can work with that. We could. Let's just see if we can make this any more efficient. What happens if we remove these edges? So, clear seam. Let's just do one, see if it works. So it's formed this, which is already working better. So we're just going to go around and click these, and we can do them all at once. And check that it's gone all the way around the model. Yep. So we're going to right click and clear seam, and then unwrap again, and we've already reduced the number, so that's great. And as I keep saying in quite a boring way, I almost wonder if we could get away with reducing these. So I keep saying in a boring way, you want as few shapes as possible. So let's just see what happens if we get rid of these ones. Maybe it won't work, and we'll need to, let's drag it, and we'll need to undo this, but always worth trying. Here, and we'll just take this one out as well. Do you know, I think that's pretty good. I think that's the solution. And we actually don't want a seam here, so there we go. Why is that not worked? Because, let's try again. Clear seam. Have we got the same problem where we've got a double amount of, yeah, we've ended up with an extra edge here. So these things can happen when you're working. So the same trick, Alt select everything with vertex mode on, and then hit merge by distance, and that should fix that problem now. And you'll know that it works because when you click on one vertex, the whole mesh comes away with it. So now we're going to select these edges again, clear seam. There we go. It's looking much better. So there was a lot of messing about, but we've got that part done. So we'll turn our subdivision back on again. Now, we want to replicate this over here. And the easiest way to do that, I say easy, is we're going to hit Control A. I'm going to choose All Transforms, and then Object Set Origin to Geometry. And we're going to do the same thing here. Control A, All Transforms, Object Set Origin to Geometry. And then Shift click this one last. Control and L, Link Object Data. And there we go. See, simple as that. Only 20 button clicks to do that. But it means we only had to unwrap it once, but we now have the object in there twice. So let's work our way onto this. This should be nice and simple because we don't need this face, because that's hidden, and we don't need this face, that's hidden. And then all we want to do is put a cut that runs the whole length like this. Let's try to find the opposite angle. Well, I think it's this one. That looks right. Again, it doesn't really matter if it's not perfect. We're dealing with such small shapes. We'll just turn off subdivision here. We're going to pick up this edge and this edge. Mark seam, and then we're just going to remove this one. And this one. Bingo, it's looking nice. And we'll apply a UV grid. Let's just apply the scale here. So Control A, apply scale, and then let's try again. So this is one of the other quirks of Blender. Because we started with a cylinder and then we stretched it up, Blender is still remembering how much we stretched it up by. And when you apply the scale, you're saying, no, this is the actual size of the object. And that's why our grid was looking distorted. So that's looking correct now. So we're going to do the same thing. This is already, should have everything already applied, but let's do it again. Control A, all transforms. And our origin for some reason disappears. So we'll set it back to the geometry. And then we're going to do the same thing here. And then select this one last. Control L, link object data. And you can see it's copied everything over. So it's deleted those faces. Everything's as it should be. So we're racing through this now. Same process on this one. Select one face. And we don't have a bottom on it. So this one should just be, should turn off subdivision to make it easier. Should be this one and this one. And then the top. Now, I think we might have a slight problem with this one, but we'll find out again because it's not letting me select the whole ring at once. So let's mark the seams and then see if we've got the same problem. So if we click on here, that's looking right. Okay. So we'll hit A, hard unwrap, and yeah, I think we're looking pretty good. But we're getting some stretching, so let's split this into, we need a seam here. What was I thinking? You can tell I'm getting hungry. That's what's happening. It's nearly my lunchtime. And there we go. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that other one was correct, because it clearly wasn't. We'll apply the subdivision. And zoom in, and then apply all transforms, objects, set origin to geometry. We should be able to do all three of these at once. So I'll select all of these. Control A, all transforms, objects, set origin to geometry. Shift click on this one last. Control, link object data. Okay, so we've just got the top of the joysticks and the screws to do. So let's save, and then we're going to rattle through these, and we're nearly done. And again, I know this seems like a crazy amount of work, but it will make sense when we move on to other things. And if you ever want to get into doing models for games, and I'll cover that later in the lessons, this is essential. So it's a good skill to have. Okay, so we're going to select these screws. They're all joined together because we mirrored them, but we now want to break them apart again. So the easiest way to do that is go to edit mode, hit A to select all, and then hit P and choose loose parts. And if they're not connected to each other, so separate them across like that. And actually, let's undo that because I had the mirror modifier applied. So let's apply our modifier before we do that, and then do the same process. So it worked. Okay, so select our screw, and we're going to apply a mirror modifier, and that should then, yeah. So now we're going to hit 3, select all, and hit P by loose parts, and that will select it will make any object that isn't joined directly to another one. It will make it its own objects. So now we can pick one screw to work on, and we don't have a back face, so that's good. So you should already be starting to see what we're going to do, which ones we're going to cut. Let's cut this edge here, mark seam, this edge, mark seam, and then turn off our subdivision so we can see better inside. So we're going to work our way around and select all of these edges, Alt Shift as we go. Perfect. And then we just need to select all of these edges. That one, yeah, we need these ones as well. Nope, not mark sharp, mark seam. See, even when you've done 1,000 of these, you still get caught out. Mark seam, mark seam. Nearly there. Don't know why my nose always starts to itch when I'm concentrating. Okay, that should be everything. So let's... Oh, we just need to put in a cut here. And one at the bottom here. And so the same thing going on the back. Oh yeah, we need to do the same here. Mark seam. And I mean, you're probably never going to see this part, but let's just do it to be thorough. Okay. And you know what we're doing by now. There we go, looking good. Oh, we've got a little bit of crashing into each other here, so maybe I've been too ambitious with my unwrap. And I think it's because, yeah, there's nowhere for these parts to go, so let's do this instead. So we're going to work our way around. So like I said, it's just always problem solving, always trying to find why something's gone wrong and how you're going to fix it. And the solution is normally just to break it into smaller parts if you get stuck. And there we go. Turn back on our subdivision. Nice. And like I said, you'll already have decided now if you find looking at this really satisfying or you have no interest in it at all. Hopefully you find it satisfying. So we're going to shift click all of these. And we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to hit Control and A, all transforms, objects, set origin to geometry. And then same thing again here, Control A, all transforms, object, set origin to geometry. I did these the wrong way around, because now I select these again, but hey. We're already, 40 minutes into this video, whoops. And then select that, Control L, link object data. Nice. So if we did this on this side, so all transforms, and then we select the screw again. It works, but they're all facing the wrong way. So we're just going to shift click off this one, and then we need to rotate these. If we hit the full stop, the period key, and choose individual origins, and then R, Z, 180, it'll flip them back. So we're nearly there, so we've just got these screws here to do. And let's just select all of these now. And apply all transforms, objects, set origin to geometry. And then we should be able to click on, let's see what happens if we do these two at once. So it's the same problem. We're going to shift off this, rotate 90 degrees, keep like minus 90 degrees. And then because we've got individual origin selected, we can hit S to scale and bring them down again. So we can do the same thing here. Control link object data, rotate it on the Z, minus 90. But some idiot forgot to unselect that. Rotate on the Z, minus 90, and then just scale them down to the size you want. So that's everything apart from this. And I put this off to the end because spheres are an absolute pain to unwrap. Now, Blender's done something, and if we apply this, maybe this is okay for what you want. And to be honest, it's probably okay for our model. I'm just going to show you an alternative technique though. So it involves making a whole new shape. And we're going to hit Shift and A. So we're going to hit Shift and S, cursor to selected, then Shift and A, mesh, cube. And we're going to scale this down. So what we can do is if we look at that, we've got a nice unwrap shape, but we have a cube, which is kind of useless unless we apply our subdivision modifier, subdivision surface, and then we increase it to 4 and then scale it out. You can see it's kind of made a circle whilst maintaining our unwrapping. If we apply the UV grid material now, that to me is much more useful. There's one thing I want to do, just really, it's a pretty good sphere, but just to finish it off, we'll use cast. So you might search for that, CAST, and it should already be set to sphere. It doesn't make a particularly visual difference, probably a waste of time, but worth knowing how to do, because I think if I turn it off, yeah, Anyway, let's not worry about that. It does something. Yeah, it's good practice to apply it. So we're going to apply both of these modifiers. And then we're going to do the same trick as usual. So all transforms, object set origins geometry. And then select this one, shift select this one, link object data. And there we go. We've got one fully unwrapped arcade machine. So the last thing I want to do is select everything, go into edit mode, and then select everything again. So I'll just talk you through that because I skipped a step there. So make sure you're in object mode, hit A to select all of your objects, and then if you hit the tab key, you can then edit all of the objects at once. So go into face mode, make sure we've got everything selected, which I think we have. And if we unwrap now, you'll see that it's made this like model kit sheet of all the parts, and I'm just going to reduce the margins now. Let's make it 0.1. And we should now have everything laid out on one piece of paper. So, well done. We have unwrapped a complicated shape, and this is time well spent because we can now use this to do all sorts of cool stuff in the next lesson. I'm going to have some lunch, and I will see you soon.